Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into the wonderfully weird world of Mr. Meaty.
Ah, yes, the Canadian-American teen puppet sitcom. Aired on Nickelodeon and CBC. Definitely memorable.
Absolutely. We've got some interesting sources lined up at the Wikipedia page naturally, but also two quite different YouTube takes. One leans into how unsettling it was.
Right, the nightmare fuel aspect.
Exactly. And the other uses that iceberg format to kind of dissect its different layers. So our mission today is really to figure out what made Mr. Meaty so unique, so sticky in people's minds.
Well, I think a big part of it is that core idea, right? Taking something totally normal, like a fast food joint.
The most mundane setting.
And just injecting it with pure, unfiltered strangeness. That clash, that confrontation between the everyday and the bizarre. I think that's key to why it had such a weird appeal.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. So the heart of it is the Scotchboro Mall, specifically the Mr. Meaty restaurant.
Which, fun fact, Scotchboro is based on Scarborough, Toronto.
Right. And our main guys, Josh Redgrove and Parker Dinkelman, worked there.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, voiced by Jamie Shannon. He's the charming one. Popular, maybe a bit.
Yeah.
Uncaring.
Mm-hmm.
The cashier.
Yeah. And then Parker, voiced by Jason Hopley. He's Josh's best friend. Kind of nerdy. Definitely loves food. A bit awkward. The fry cook. His look and voice were apparently based on someone Hopley used to work with.
So you've got these two teens dealing with, regular teen stuff, homework, crushes, whatever.
But constantly stumbling into these absolutely wild, often supernatural situations right there in the mall.
That clash you mentioned, it's right there. A totally generic food court becomes this stage for absurdity.
Exactly. And the fact they also deal with normal teen problems just makes it weirder. The strange happening right next to that. Totally relatable. It's jarring.
So here's something interesting from the background. Before it was a full, half-hour show in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Meaty actually started life as, I think, 17 short little segments, like interstitials between shows on Nickelodeon in the U.S. and CBC in Canada. This was 2002 to 2005.
Oh, okay. Little tasters of the weirdness?
Pretty much. Then they did a pilot in late 2005, used some of that short material, I guess, and then the full series launched in September 2006.
How long did it run for?
2 seasons. Which sounds like a lot, but it worked out to 20 episodes, but 32 actual segments, because some were shorter. Had a few longer specials, too. It finished up in May 2009.
And those early shorts, they weren't totally obscure.
No, apparently they were on CBC's show The Void. They popped up on Nickelodeon's iTunes listings, even the old Turbonic website.
That origin as shorts is pretty telling, I think. Suggests they were maybe testing the waters,
right,
seeing if people would bite with this very specific kind of humor.
Like easing people into the puppet chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Small doses first. And putting them on different platforms suggests they knew how to find that teen audience, even early on.
Okay, let's talk characters beyond Josh and Parker.
Oh.
Because, wow, there were some memorable ones.
Oh, yeah. Like the founder, Edward R. Carney.
Voiced by Marty Stelnick, the original Mr. Meaty himself.
Yeah.
Ancient, totally evil, super greedy, classic bad boss turned up to 11.
To the point where he gets himself cryogenically frozen, right?
Yeah.
With a plan to, keep his meaty legacy going centuries later.
It's intense. And then there's Mr. Wink, the manager. He's just kind of sad, almost.
Cold-hearted, yeah. But wasn't there something about a chip?
Yeah. An electric chip on his neck that Carney used to control him. So he's basically Carney's unwilling lackey.
See, even the supporting characters just ramp up that weird off-kilter vibe. Carney's almost cartoon evil, Wink's robotic obedience. It's a dark workplace comedy element.
Totally skewed. It wasn't just the teens. The whole world was kind of bent.
And it didn't stop there, right? There were others.
Oh, yeah.
Lizzie.
The alien girl disguised as a human. Both Josh and Parker crushed on her, understandably.
An alien. Okay.
Then Chip 2.6, a robot employee built to be the perfect, totally obedient worker.
Of course, a robot.
And Parker's pet Yeti, Eddie, who apparently worked there for a bit before, going back to the Himalayas, as you do.
A Yeti fry cook?
Right.
It's just the sheer randomness of putting these fantasy elements into that mall setting.
It's like the core ingredient, isn't it? It just keeps messing with your expectations. It never lets the show just be a normal sitcom.
The absurdity is baked right in. It's in the characters, not just the plots.
So who dreamed this stuff up?
Yeah.
The creators were Jamie Shannon and Jason Hopley, the voices of Josh and Parker.
Makes sense.
Interestingly, apparently neither of them actually worked in fast food, though Hopley said he drew inspiration from working at a movie theater concession stand. Close enough, maybe.
Huh. Okay. And were there any big influences mentioned?
Yeah, they cited the Ren and Stimpy show for its stylistic humor, which, if you've seen both, kind of clicks, that anarchic, gross-out vibe sometimes.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. The embrace of the grotesque, the unexpected.
And the target audience was definitely teens, explicitly. The executive producer, Jack Lenz, even apparently compared it to Beavis and Butthead, thinking Mr. Meaty could hit that same, irreverent nerve with teenagers.
Okay, Beavis and Butthead, that comparison definitely signals an intent to be edgy, maybe a little bit rebellious, pushing buttons, for sure, especially for a kids' network.
The creators, Shannon and Hopley, had a Canadian puppet company called the Grogs, or Grogs Inc.
Ah, the puppet connection.
Yeah, and they weren't new to kids' TV. They also did Nanoland, which is its own kind of unique.
Oh, I remember Nanoland, yeah. Different vibe, but definitely unique puppetry.
They also worked on, Anu and Whoopi's Littleberg. But for Mr. Meaty, they apparently made over 250 foam latex puppets.
Wow, 250. That's a lot of puppets. That foam latex look is so specific, too.
It really is. It gives them that uncanny feeling, doesn't it? Like they're recognizable teen types, but also just slightly unsettling because they're puppets.
That tactile, slightly grotesque medium is fundamental to the show's whole identity. And 250 puppets, that speaks to the scale of this weird world they built.
So, production-wise, Nickelodeon gave the green light for full episodes around September 2005. That pilot, in Parker's site, using some of the short material, aired in December 2005. Then the main series debut was September 2006 on Nickelodeon itself.
Right.
They even did a little sneak peek of the Buffalo Burrito episode on iTunes just before the TV premiere.
Ah, using digital early. Smart.
But then, things shifted a bit. In February 2007, the show moved over to the Nicktoons channel.
Okay, so off the main channel.
Yeah, and that's where the rest of the episodes aired.
That moved to Nicktoons. You have to wonder if that affected its reach, you know? Nicktoons usually had a smaller audience than the main Nickelodeon channel. Could that have played a role in it only lasting 2 seasons?
It's possible, right. Less visibility, maybe? Okay, let's talk tone and humor, because
It's definitely so.
it's labeled a teen sitcom, sure, but it's drenched in surreal humor, obviously the puppetry, and it just wasn't afraid to get bizarre, supernatural, often pretty grotesque.
That's putting it mildly for some episodes.
Right. One of the YouTube sources we looked at flat out called it the absolute most scariest thing and most nightmare-inducing show they'd seen from that era.
Wow. Strong words.
Another one called it stupid, unfunny, grotesque media, which is harsh.
Oosh.
But even they admitted it was weird and surreal and actually compared it to something you might find on Adult Swim late at night.
That Adult Swim comparison feels right. It's just a type of humor, maybe a level of weirdness that was really pushing boundaries for what you'd expect on Nick or even Nicktoons. Highly polarizing, clearly.
Oh, definitely polarizing.
And boundary pushing.
Let's talk specifics. Some truly memorable and disturbing episodes.
Okay, hit me.
Roast beef Barb. Josh wants a girlfriend, uses a Jiffy Meat machine, whatever that is, and some DNA
Oh, no.
to make one out of meat. Literally a girlfriend made of raw meat.
Okay, that's visual.
And then she leaves him for a hunk of prime ribs.
She leaves him for actual meat. Wow, that's commitment to the bit, I guess. Darkly funny, but mostly just deeply strange.
Right. Then there's Moochmaster P. This one comes up a lot.
The tapeworm one.
That's the one. Parker eats a raw burger. Bad start.
Never a good idea.
Gets a giant tapeworm. So how do they get it out? They bait it with a sausage.
Of course they do.
And then, the kicker, a zookeeper shows up, buys the tapeworm off him, and just swallows it.
Wait, swallows it. The zookeeper just eats the giant tapeworm.
Apparently.
It's,
Yeah. That image alone might stick with you.
No kidding. That combination of like body horror and the sheer casualness of the resolution, it's shocking, but also kind of absurdly funny. Prime Mr. Meaty.
And remember the shorts, there was one called Crispy Hand.
Uh-oh. Where's this go?
A goth girl and Parker accidentally burn their hands badly in the deep fryer.
Okay.
And then they just start eating their own burnt fingers.
They eat their fingers. Wow, okay. That's definitely crossing a line into pure grotesque territory. Nightmare-inducing, yeah. I can see why people said that.
And the list just goes on, really. Ashley's nose melting off and getting replaced by a sausage and schnozzle.
A sausage nose.
Got it. Josh turning into a unicorn in Unihorn.
Naturally.
Doug, the mall security guard, becoming a zombie in Doug of the Dead.
A mall zombie. It's just relentless, isn't it? The sheer dedication to the surreal and the macabre.
It really was.
Yeah.
They took normal setups and just twisted them into something else entirely. Often disturbing, always unexpected. That's probably why it's so memorable, love it or hate it.
So how did the world at large react? beyond those YouTubers?
Well, it was mixed. Common Sense Media gave it 3 out of 5 stars. They noted the humor was for older kids and said some might actually like seeing the characters deal with puberty amidst the chaos.
So not entirely negative.
No, and interestingly, the New York Times actually reviewed it positively. They praised the puppetry and the characterizations.
Really? The New York Times?
Yeah. And get this. At one point, it was apparently the 4th highest rated Saturday morning show for kids aged 2 to 11.
4th highest. Wow. So despite the weirdness, it did find an audience, at least for a while. And got some critical nods, too. Suggests there was maybe some craft there beyond just shock value.
Oh, it wasn't all smooth sailing. It definitely got criticism, especially from some adults, maybe parents. There was even an online petition against it back in 2007 calling it offensive.
Offensive how? What were the complaints?
The petition mentioned things like promoting animal abuse, presumably the meat theme unhealthy eating, and discriminating against veganism.
Ah, okay. So focusing on the food aspect and potential messages there.
Yeah. And one of the YouTube sources did mention lower ratings alongside that criticism as likely reasons why it eventually got canceled.
That makes sense. Controversy plus potentially falling ratings. That's often the death knell for a show, especially when pushing boundaries like this.
Now, if you, listening, want to actually watch this madness, finding official copies is tricky.
Yeah, no big DVD release.
Only one single episode, Park Arena, ever made it onto an official DVD as part of a Nick Picks compilation. That's it.
Wow, really limited.
But, the internet provides. Full episodes are definitely floating around online, YouTube, archive.org, places like that.
Right, the unofficial archive.
And apparently, people even sell unofficial, custom-made DVD sets. Get this. One of the creators, Jamie Shannon, or Jason Hopley, actually admitted buying a bootleg copy of their own show online.
No way. That's hilarious. Buying a bootleg of your own creation speaks volumes about the official availability, I guess, and the dedication of the fans keeping it alive.
Totally. And there was even a game, a free Flash game on the Nickelodeon website back in the day.
Oh, yeah. What was it like?
It was called Mr. Meaty, Treasures of the Deep. You basically used a paperclip on a string to fish stuff out of Mr. Meaty deep fryer.
Fishing? In the deep fryer? What were you fishing for?
Just items. You got points for the more grotesque things you pulled out.
That is perfectly on brand. Fishing for gross stuff in the fryer. And is it still around?
Yep. Archive.org has it preserved, apparently, so you can still digitally deep fry fish for weirdness.
Amazing. The legacy lives on in Flash game form.
Finally, you know how the internet loves theories.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
There's some fan chatter about Mr. Meaty potentially existing in the same universe as other slightly unsettling puppet shows, like the web series Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Ooh, okay. I can see the thematic link there. Unsettling puppets.
And maybe the Comedy Central show Cranky Anchors. The connection seemed to be the puppet thing and the fact Viacom owned them all at some point.
Interesting, if maybe a stretch. But it shows how Mr. Meaty tapped into that uncanny puppet vibe.
And then there's a fan-made horror film concept, which is pretty dark.
How dark?
The idea is that the actual Mr. Meaty puppets, being canceled and forgotten, come to life and go on a killing spree for revenge, like murdering people and cooking their remains at the restaurant.
Whoa, okay. That's intense, like a really grim version of the Banana Splits movie concept.
Exactly. Taking the creepy potential of the puppets to a whole other level.
These theories definitely show the show's lasting impact, right? And that unsettling feeling it left. People are still thinking about its darker potential.
For sure. So, wrapping this up, it's pretty clear Mr. Meaty wasn't your standard teen sitcom. Not even close.
Not by a long shot. Yeah. That mix of everyday teen angst with surreal, often gross-out horror, all done with those very specific puppets.
It left a mark. A very weird, maybe slightly greasy mark on people who saw it.
Definitely. It's a great case study in unconventional kids programming, pushing boundaries, embracing the absurd, maybe alienating some viewers.
But creating something utterly unique and memorable because of it.
Absolutely. Strange and singular, like you said. In hindsight, it really is kind of wild to air it on Nickelodeon, even Nicktoons.
It makes you think about what flies on kids' TV, doesn't it? And how shows like this might hit differently than, say, a straightforward cartoon.
For sure. So, the big question for you listening, what do you think about Mr. Meaty? Were you one of the kids having nightmares about meat girlfriends and tapeworms?
Or did you just find the weirdness kind of fascinating? Does it surprise you, knowing all this, that it was aimed at kids and aired where it did?
It definitely challenges assumptions, doesn't it? About what kids can handle, or what resonates, laughter, fear, maybe that weird mix of both.
If you're feeling brave or just morbidly curious, maybe hunt down some clips online. See Roast Beef Barb or Mooch Master P for yourself.
Or maybe try the Treasures of the Deep game for a slightly less graphic experience of the Mr. Meaty vibe.
Yeah, hearing about it is one thing, but actually seeing those foam puppets doing their unsettling thing, it's another experience.
Totally. So whether you land on horrifying, hilarious, or just plain weird, Mr. Meaty is undeniably unforgettable TV.
Right. It really proves that sometimes the strangest combinations, puppets, fast food, horror, can be the ones that stick with you the most. Makes you wonder, what other normal, everyday thing could you twist into something equally bizarre and memorable?
Something to chew on. Until next time.